The first 24-hour of Le Mans was held on the 26th and 27th of May in 1923. The Chenard and Walker sport car, driven by André Lagauche and René Leonard, won in convincing fashion. Both drivers placing first and second place, covering over 1,300 miles of French countryside. The French car manufacturer triumphed over competitors of the time, the most famous competitor being Britain's own Bentley, amongst numerous other French manufacturers and only a couple of Belgian brands. Despite winning the inaugural 24-hour race of Le Mans on home soil, however, Chenard Walker would never win at Le Mans again. The car manufacturer that won the very first 24 hours of Le Mans would never compete in racing again, and its name would be lost in time to the shadows of others such as Bentley, Bugatti, and Ferrari. Georges Durand is the founder and creator of the 24-hour at Le Mans. After bearing witness to a horrendous road racing crash in Paris of 1903, he was inspired to create a more safe and manageable racing circuit. Because of his innovative idea of having a manageable track that's closed off to the public, Georges was granted 100,000 French francs to be an organizer of a Grand Prix in 1906. Durand, along with 3 other founders, would go on to start the ACO company with this funding. When it came to choosing a location for this Grand Prix, Durand chose his hometown of Le Mans, consisting of long straightaways and sharp corners for his track. Not satisfied with the track's success, however, at the French Grand Prix of 1921, Durand began planning his ambitious idea of a 24-hour race consisting of both production and prototype cars. This idea would become a reality. After just a one-day weather delay, on May 25th, the first ever 24-hour at Le Mans began the day after, on May 26th, 1923. Michael Fassbender had a lifelong dream of racing in the 24-hour of Le Mans, and he actually did so in 2022. Fassbender is not the only celebrity, however, to compete in the race, as many other celebrities have participated over the years. Celebrities such as Patrick Dempsey, Paul Newman, Frankie Muniz, and many more have raced. Of all celebrity racers, however, Paul Newman has by far the best track record, placing second overall at the Le Mans of 1979. Michael Fassbender's Le Mans career did not end so happily, actually. His Porsche 911 would pile drive into a track barrier, but he was still able to finish the race. Grey's Anatomy star Patrick Dempsey also saw a fair bit of success at Le Mans, as he would go on to podium in the 2015 Le Mans amateur category. Could you imagine just for 1 second, not only driving drunk, which you shouldn't be doing, but just imagine it for a second, hypothetically. You're driving drunk, but not only are you driving drunk, you're racing drunk at 100 miles per hour against 40 other cars for 2,500 miles. This is the exact scenario that took place during the 24-hour of Le Mans in 1953. One of which would go down as one of the most iconic and wackiest Le Mans in history. The story begins first the day before Le Mans starts, during qualifying and practice. Jaguar had sent out a test driver to try the Jaguar's new axle ratio in an attempt to improve the lap times of their driver, Tony Rault. The issue was this car was sent out donning the number 18. The number 18 was the fellow Jaguar teammate Duncan Hamilton's number. Due to some new rules that had been set into place a year prior, this car could not be classified as a test car due to the number 18, and therefore both Tony Rault and Duncan Hamilton were both thrown out of the race and disqualified. Absolutely devastated by this, and understandably so. Both Tony and Duncan went completely MIA, and they began drinking their feelings away. And when I say drinking their feelings away, they drank all night long. The next morning, they were found in a restaurant, downing coffees and trying to get their heads together. They were approached by the owner of Jaguar himself. He told the two that they were back in the race, as all Jaguar had to do was pay a fine of 25,000 French francs to make this altercation go away. Both Tony Rolt and Duncan Hamilton would go on to line up at the start of the race, hungover and heads throbbing. Hamilton made the final call. He decided that he and Tony Rolt would down one more cup of brandy and go balls to the wall. Miraculously, Duncan Hamilton would go on to win this race as his Jaguar outlasted all other vehicles. Hamilton had also suffered a broken windshield as well as a broken nose, as he had struck a bird at some point during the race, breaking the windshield and not stopping there but smashing him in the face and breaking his nose into pieces. Absolutely thrashed, heads throbbing, drunk out of their minds. These two Brits came together to form an absolute legend. A legend of what can be accomplished with the power of dedication and alcoholism. Tom Kristensen holds the record for the most consecutive wins of any driver in Le Mans history. Between 2000 and 2005, the number one spot belongs to Kristensen alone. Nicknamed Mr. Le Mans, he is also the winningest racer in Le Mans history, with 9 total wins. Second place is Jackie Ickx with 6 total wins, while third place is a 3-way tie between Derek Bell, Frank Biella, and Emmanuel Pirot, all with 5 wins apiece. Le Mans' winningest car manufacturer is Porsche with 19 total victories, followed by Audi in second with 13 victories, and Ferrari in third with a total of 11 victories. Germany holds the title as the winningest country in Le Mans history with a dominating 34 victories, blowing second place United Kingdom out of the water with 17 victories, and third place a shared spot between France and Italy with 15 victories apiece. On the other side of the spectrum, the car manufacturer that has entered the most Le Mans races without a victory is Nissan. Nissan has entered more than 20 cars from 1986 to the current day Le Mans in 2024, and has never been able to claim the top step of the podium. The driver who has entered the most Le Mans without ever winning the event is French driver Bob Wellick. Wellick actually holds the record for the second most Le Mans entries of all time, with 30 total entries. In 30 tries, Wellick was never able to win at the 24-hour of Le Mans. One of the most iconic images from Le Mans is that of the original start prior to 1970. The drivers would start on one side of the track, sprint as fast as they could into their cars, fasten their own seatbelts, get their helmets on properly, and get racing. Although iconic, the tradition was terminated after legendary driver Jackie Ickx protested the starting method at the Le Mans of 1969. Some drivers were not properly fastening their safety belts and equipment in hoping of gaining just the slightest bit of time over their competition. As a matter of fact, a year prior, one of Jackie's close friends and fellow competitor had been seriously injured because he had failed to properly fasten his seatbelt. This accident would go on to end his racing career permanently. Jackie Ickx in the 1969 Le Mans decided he would not be running to his car, but instead he would walk briskly over to his car, placing himself in last place and taking that position as a protest to this dangerous starting method. As it would turn out, just one lap into the race would mark a tragic confirmation to Jackie's concerns. fellow racer John Wolfe crashed out of the race and passed away due to not wearing his safety belt properly. Despite starting in last place, Jacky Ickx would go on to win the Le Mans of 1969, as well as set a new standard for safety that would undoubtedly save the lives of countless racers in the future. The name Pierre Lévesque is that of legend within the car world. There were two major events in Pierre's life that altered the course of Le Mans history forever. First coming in 1952, Pierre became a hero when he almost accomplished the entirety of the 24 hours of Le Mans completely solo. That's 24 hours straight, averaging 100 miles per hour through the day and night with absolutely no rest and no sleep. Almost every other race team in Le Mans history has had 3 different drivers assigned to one car. To pull off the entire race solo was and still is absolutely unheard of. Despite the odds, Pierre was only 1 hour away from winning the 1952 Le Mans until a mechanical failure took place, ending his race indefinitely. Pierre drove a mind-boggling 22 hours without a break that day, only stopping to refuel and change tires, but never sleeping and never taking a break. Today, this is still considered the greatest driving achievement in the history of Le Mans. Unfortunately, however, Pierre's name would go down in Le Mans history for another reason entirely, as he would lose his life at the Le Mans of 1955. The crash would go down as the biggest catastrophe in motorsports history. Despite this, Pierre will always be remembered as one of the greatest racers in the history of motorsports. This achievement that would have been the greatest hero story in Le Mans history, and yet it was that same race that would bring his story to an end. Pierre is the perfect icon. He encapsulated exactly why road racing is such a passionate sport: the danger, the thrill, the guts, and the glory.